So, in a recent interview, New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees stated that he doesn't agree with anyone kneeling for the national anthem, and also stated his feelings when you hear the Star Spangled Banner played, and thinking of his grandfathers and all those who have served for this country. And, I, for one, I think this is just really refreshing to hear from someone, especially okay. Okay, this is new, but okay. Apparently we have some breaking news. So, let me see what that says. Oh, okay. So, well, I guess just forget all what I just said, because Drew Brees has already apologized.
From the highways of America, here's the podcast where we talk politics, a little entertainment, some culture, and this and that, from the road to your ears. This is Trend Chat with your host, Brian Bledsoe.
And welcome to another episode of Trend Chat. I am your host, Brian Bledsoe, and if you want to connect with us, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, it's all the same at TrendChat 24/7. Also, if you want to check out my personal profiles, you can go to Brian L. Bledsoe on Twitter and Instagram. So, something I don't mention often. Also, if you want to send us an email, I guess, you can go to trendchat247@gmail.com. Yeah. I know that was a couple of days ago, at least from the time of this recording, when all that happened with Drew Brees. But listening to the beginning of that, believe me, how fast he turned around and apologized was as quick as how I just did that intro. It was, the comments were, I think that, well, at least they were public Wednesday afternoon sometime. And so in less than 24 hours, he was already apologizing. Not only did he apologize once that day, he apologized twice that day. And so, he turned tail quick on that. But yeah, so, look, I know this wasn't something I was going to get, go too much on really. But when you have like any of these celebrities and, being a quarterback for an NFL team, that's pretty much you're a celebrity. Any football player pretty much is a celebrity in some sense. But any celebrity speaks outside of the liberal narrative, I would think, well, I would hope maybe, or maybe you don't know, that when they do that, a lot of times they'll probably get calls from sponsors from their, these companies that sponsor their, if they have some sort of, so like in Drew Brees' case, like if he has a football camp or something like that, and he has all these sponsors for his camp, or if he has a foundation or anything that's revolving around his brand, there's a lot of companies that sponsor, those events for him. And so when something like this comes out and he speaks out of turn, really, those companies start whispering some, saying that, okay, we're going to threaten to pull your sponsorship because you're, stating such a controversial statement. And on top of that, then you have the people closest to him, his teammates, and also his celebrity friends like LeBron James, who was out there in front, basically harassing him. And so you have that, and I'm guessing other factors that are included as well. And so pretty much his whole, their livelihood is threatened at that point. And if you're not, principled in your stance about whatever it is that is deemed controversial, if you're not principled to stand up and defend that stance, it's literally not worth it because of all the, having the companies threaten the pool sponsorships and all that. It's, just not worth it to stand up for your beliefs. So like so many that go down this road and says something a little bit out of turn that's outside of that progressive Democrat liberal narrative, they just shut up and apologize. And that's what Drew Brees did. And he won't be the last. He's definitely was the first. He's not going to be the last. This is something that happens all the time. So, and I guess in other pandering news, I guess in a way, I know I saw this story about Lego that where they are pulling the marketing for sets that I guess that focus on law enforcement or first responders, and they also pulled the marketing for the White House set. If that, just to make sure to, if you don't know where they stand and how they feel about who's currently in the White House. So they want to pull back that marketing because they know that is considered controversial now too. And I know I posted on social media. It's kind of one of those things where I kind of wanted, President Trump to tweet about this because, and he wouldn't have to say much. I would just like him to say something, just 2 words or just, something like, really, Lego? Something like that. It just, I don't know. I just would have found that just so humorous. I would have loved that. But yeah. So they didn't pull them off the shelves. They just not marketing those sets or whatever. Because I guess they don't want kids to play with law enforcement or at least to be deemed as heroes, which is funny. Because less than a month ago, they, as a company, like pretty much all the companies that were, saying thank you to first responders and, truckers and all that. And they were saying that no less than a month ago. And now all of a sudden, just because of one incident that has happened, that's basically, got everyone's attention with the death of George Floyd, all of a sudden now it's problematic, I guess, is the sense. So anyway, get that out of the way. And I will talk more about that, as far as the death of George Floyd and also the riots and everything that's been going on. But I just want to stop right quick and just say again, thanks to listening to Trend Chat. Also want to make sure I mention, our guest. We're going to be talking to definitely Holly. We'll have the interview on. Also, something I don't mention often, which I just forget, to be honest, is where we're broadcasting from at this moment. When you're listening to this being recorded in Utica, New York. That's where we're at right now. So, I know one thing when I played the intro, so that little news, I guess, that's supposed to have been like a breaking news sound. And the only reason I thought about that is because I got to make sure I had my news sound for the inventory update that I keep saying I'm going to have. I said I'm going to have a little sound to play when it's time for the inventory update because, with the whole pandemic and how supplies just went, haywire. Everybody was buying all toilet paper. You remember all that. Anyway, every episode for, I don't know, I guess I may stop doing this after this episode because really a lot of the inventory is pretty much all stocked up. We do have like the meat shortage and stuff, but I know like I haven't seen much myself because I haven't really been going into a lot of the stores like I was in the past couple of weeks. Actually, so for me, okay. If I'm going to get into this, I might as well play the sound if I'm going to download it. So anyway, here's without further ado, here is the inventory update. So, now I got to find the sound. Oh, hey, look. I'm not even gonna claim like we're professional around here. Just keeping it real. So anyway, once again, without further ado, here's the inventory update. Yep. So, so not really much to update, to be honest, because haven't really been in many stores too much the past week. And from what I've seen, there has been some places where toilet paper is still a little bit low, but it's mostly stocked up. I have been to some places where, as I just mentioned about the meat, where ground beef, I don't know what, this is just me because I buy pepperoni a lot, but I noticed I haven't seen pepperoni. I don't know what's up with that. I normally buy pepperoni to put in my cooler and stuff like that. But, and normally I never have any problem with getting pepperoni. Just all of a sudden, it just not at the deli, at least not in the Walmart delis, put it that way. Maybe it's at the others I haven't been to. But yeah, so it seems like as far as, these supplies, I guess I will say, the, disinfectant wipes and hand sanitizer, that is still pretty much very scarce. That is pretty much it though. Everything else, like I said, the toilet paper is pretty much back, and you can find, it's not like the meat is just totally bare. But yeah, the shelves for sanitizer is still pretty empty. And so I guess I would just go back to what I've been saying, as far as if you want those particular items, like disinfectant wipes, disinfectant spray, hand sanitizer, I think that's the three I still see scarce numbers of. So if you're still trying to get those three, I guess just go back to what I've always been saying since this whole thing started, is to get there first thing in the morning when we, a lot of times when we deliver the products, and a lot of times it should be on the shelf if it was in the shipment that we brought in. So there you go. That is for the first time. Oh, what was that? So I don't really have time to practice this, but so now I brought the intro in, and now, so I will say, now that was the inventory update. Okay, I just got a kick out of that. That was just funny. Okay, so also, because I know once I get into talking about all these riots and the protests and all that, that's gonna go into a bit of a rant. I know it is. So before we even get into that, matter of fact, we're gonna do this now because I think I missed it last episode, and we're gonna do this. I'm gonna talk about all of that, but because it's gonna be, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be long because it shouldn't be, but I think last episode I forgot to shout out the locations that have been, at least the frequent locations that are listening to Trend Chat. And I just wanted to bring this up, especially given that I missed it last time, but also because we have a new country on our list, which is just crazy to me. It's always, I keep saying that, and I'm not going to repeat it, but like, it just, yeah, to see international, names on here, just something else. So anyway, again, United States, 97%. Okay, of course, that's going to be the majority. But then the rest of it, the rest of the other percentage, so like United States is 97.14%. They're listening to Trend Chat. But then the other 2.86% is coming from the Netherlands. So shout out to Amsterdam, I guess. That's all I know in the Netherlands. So, so shout out to you who are listening in Amsterdam. Thanks to listening to the Trend Chat. Tell more people at wherever. I know y'all. I know it's very socially liberal over there, but tell them about it. I guess maybe they'll learn something. Anyway, so as far as the U.S. cities in the top 10 that are listening, we are going to start off with Florence, Alabama. Thank you for listening. Erie, Colorado. Charlotte, North Carolina. Loveland, Colorado. Lexington, South Carolina. Honolulu, Hawaii. Grapevine, Texas. Baton, Texas. Back on there. That stays on there. It was Grapevine and others, but San Jose and Melbourne, San Jose, California, if you don't know, and Melbourne, Florida. And the others are the other 48% in other cities, but they didn't reach the top 10. So if you're listening to Trend Chat and you're in one of these cities that are not in the top 10, then if you want to hear your city, you gotta spread the word. Trend Chat. Then I'll, mention your city, and you will get the distinguished honor of being shout out on Trend Chat. Like I said, it's being listened to in the Netherlands. So hey, you have your city heard in Amsterdam, if that is Amsterdam. I don't know. It might be another city in the Netherlands. But yeah. So yeah, appreciate everyone across the globe listening to Trend Chat. So before we get into everything about the George Floyd riots and the George Floyd protests, I want to split those two because they are two different things. And so before we get into that, we have an organization that we definitely are proud to support, and we are proud to play the first promo ad, I guess, if you want to call it. But we're glad to have them on. So we're going to start off, and we have two new ones actually that you'll hear in this episode. So the first one you're going to hear is from Young Americans Against Socialism. So without further ado, here's a word from Yas.
Hey guys, this is Morgan Zegers, the founder and CEO of Young Americans Against Socialism. We are a nonprofit organization working to preserve a free, fair, and prosperous America for generations to come, all by equipping our generation with the truth about socialism. If you're interested in watching our educational videos, donating to the cause, joining the Ask Coalition, or becoming a contributor, you can do all of these things at fightsocialism.org. We hope you'll join us in this crucial fight for the future of our great country. Thanks!
Hey everybody, it is Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show. You are listening to Trend Chat with my man, Brian Bledsoe. Come on with it.
So you want to keep America great, but you don't know where to go to get some Trump-centric gear? Check out TrumpMug.com. And if you put in the code TRENDCHAT, you get 10% off. So at TrumpMug.com, they have flags, coins, mugs, of course. So go to TrumpMug.com, put in the code TRENDCHAT, get 10% off. Again, TrumpMug.com with the code TRENDCHAT for 10% off.
All right, so in that time, I probably should have had a drink of water because something tells me I'm probably gonna need it before the end of this. So, matter of fact, I'm already feeling it now. Let me get my water bottle. So yeah, forgive me. You're about to hear this water bottle opening and closing because we're gonna get in this right quick, and And I said quick because I hope this is quick. Because and actually after this, and also with our interview with later on, this will probably be the last time I'll talk about this, at least at length. Let's put it that way. So now, I kind of want to first start off by saying, to kind of tie in, I guess, two major events that's been going on together in a way, because before, George Floyd, before all this been going on and all the protests and riots and all that and looting and everything, obviously we had the pandemic with coronavirus and all, and to put those two together in this sense, because I really hope after all of this is over, when the protests, the riots, when all this is over, and also when this pandemic is over with the coronavirus and everything, when all this has been settled down, at least, I really hope there are some lawsuits and some political consequences for a lot of these politicians, all these public officials that have, in the case for coronavirus, that have been just abusing their power and have been just been using this time to basically flex their muscle and just try to just do as much as possible, in the name of public safety, but at the same time they're constantly just being like petty tyrants in a way in these states and cities. And on top of that, with everything that's been going on the past couple of days with the riots in particular, where you have politicians, have people like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib and all, the squad and all of them, where they're just enabling and coddling these rioters and looters and not really condemning what they're doing. And I'm focusing directly on the rioters for this, because you have so many celebrities and people, especially the verified blue check marks on Instagram and social media in general, where if you try to condemn the rioting that's going on, the looting, and they try to make it seem like, oh, it's not a big deal, or you should just get over it, or like I said, just basically just enable them, or in the sense of where some of these celebrities are just out here spending money to bail these people out. And because I know that as soon as I've mentioned that someone would come along, well, they're bailing out the protesters, I could almost guarantee they're not distinguishing which one is a protester and a rioter and someone who was looting. They're going to bail both of them out because they don't care, because they just see this as a means to an end, whether they were protesting, rioting, or looting, and just vandalizing and all of that. So yeah, I hope after all of this settles down that there are a bunch of like the political consequences where these people are voted out for how dangerous they've been as far as for their communities that they're supposed to be representing, and whether it's for how they treated the riots and also how they've been treating everyone during this whole pandemic. But as I mentioned before, at least on social media, just that, we can all agree, and I've mentioned this to a couple of friends already too, is that I think I would say 99%, because there's always somebody out there, but so I said 99% of us can look at the video of George Floyd on the pavement with the knee to his neck, and in that minute and watching him struggle and watching what transpired, and basically we all just watched them die right there. that moment right there, those minutes, just those few minutes, we can all agree that was wrong, that was tragic, and that was unnecessary. Outside of that little bubble of a couple of minutes, it goes into a million directions. The why, who's at fault? No, I mean, it just goes into a million different directions. And so what you have is that you have a great majority of people who agree on that his death was tragic and unnecessary. But with these protests, so now I'm just talking about the protests, just the people who are peacefully protesting. In this protest, you have, organization, a movement, called Black Lives Matter. If you haven't heard about them. And so they basically kind of started around, I think it's probably Trayvon Martin or Michael Brown, at Ferguson. But anyway, so you have this organization that's pretty much the main representative in all of these protests. And so now I'm just speaking for myself, but I know as much as I, again, think how George Floyd died at the hands of the police was unnecessary, and it was a travesty. And at this point, the officer that was charged, the officer who had his knee to his neck, that officer in particular, he's been charged with second-degree murder and also manslaughter as well, and also the other officers that were involved were charged with aiding and abetting. So, and have no problem with that. They're going to get their day in court, and from the looks of what we've seen so far, with all we've seen, it seems like they're going to get tried, and there's going to be some jail time, and rightfully so. And so, and while I say all of that, and that's what, in the next year or so, whenever the trial happens, they're going to get their time, and I can say all of that, but I know one thing. I can't go out there and as much as I agree, say all that, right? I couldn't go out there and march with Black Lives Matter. I couldn't do anything with Black Lives Matter I would say, because although we may agree on this particular issue too, but there may be some other issues that I may agree with that they have issues with. Their solutions to those issues we are diametrically opposed as far as the solution to the problems that they present, whether on their website or wherever. I mean, because their solutions are based on socialist, Marxist policies, and whether it's government control, healthcare, taking away gun rights, higher taxes, essentially just giving the government more power. And so, in a lot of cases, to me, it just seems like they're just using the main issue that they are touting to be racial equality, that it just seems more like a Trojan horse to usher in all these other policies. Like I said, other socialist, Marxist policies. And so, it just feels like they just want their turn with power. Like, they don't care about freedom or liberty, or at least freedom for all, right? It's not like they hate the system. They hate that they're not the ones in power of the system. And so now they want to use this issue, just use racial issues in general, to drum up enough anger and get people to where they support their movement. And then after that, they would just slide in all these Marxists, communists, take your pick, socialist policies, they're just going to slide those in under the guise of racial equality. And it comes across more like this is not about reconciliation. It's more about retribution and to get revenge on because of what what they've been protesting about for, it's been a couple of years now. So, and yeah, it just seems like they just want to get payback. And look, they already have allies already. I've already mentioned them, like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all that. I mean, they already got allies already in Congress, and they're getting more across the country here and there. And also you have this ever growing, politically correct culture, this virtue signaling culture, as far as like, on Instagram and everybody posting up the black boxes and everything, and basically have every company out here just using their name because they pretty much have become synonymous with black. And like, so if you support black, you go to Black Lives Matter. So like they've become the people to go to, if you want to, I guess, absolve yourself or of your sins, if you're white in particular. So now they've built up this power already. And so, like I say, now you got companies all over just bending over backwards to say Black Lives Matter. So like I said, they already have people in Congress and in city councils, in all these places across the country. And even though at the same time, I hear people all the time saying nothing's happening. Oh, trust me, a lot is happening. They don't want to say that, but yeah, they're quote unquote progressing quite nicely, to be honest. I mean, you have more and more people accepting what I would say a truly oppressive, ideology, which is socialism and communism, because they love to talk about what's going on now. Black people just oppressed here all over every day, 24/7. We're just oppressed all the time, and at the same time, they going around promoting a ideology that is truly oppressive. Now, if it goes to where they're empowered, they won't be oppressed, but they'll be oppressing other people. So I feel like that's kind of another way where they just, as long as they're in power, as long as they benefit from it, then as long as they're not oppressed, they don't care about other people being oppressed because, hey, we were, that's how they would see it. We've been oppressed all these years. So now, it's your turn to be oppressed, as opposed to how about we just all, be free and have equal opportunity. But I don't feel like that's what they want. They want to be in the seat of power and oppress others now. So anyway, matter of fact, I'm going to get that, drink of water, and I'm going to continue after we hear a word from our second organization that we are, proud to support now, and can't wait to going to play a word from Expressions. So without further ado, here we go.
This is Lacey Williams, the founder and president of Expressions Magazine, letting you know that you can order our quarterly magazine and support female conservatives by visiting express-conservatism.com, or you can follow us on social media. On Instagram with the username of expressions_conservemag, or on Twitter with the handle of @express_conserve. Get your copy today.
This is Dana Lash, and you're listening to Trend Chat.
Life Tribe or Culture of Life as they seek to celebrate life through the world of fashion. Go to col1972.com and get 10% off your purchase when you enter the code TRENDCHAT.
All right. So yeah, I just had to get a drink of water because we are going to just want to continue this right quick because so I'm just going to pick up right where I stopped. But I know, well, for one, what I'm about to mention now was I did an interview with Jacob Kersey, and I would encourage you to check out Jacob Kersey's program. I did an interview with him, and we talked about this as well. And I know one thing I brought up on his program is that, there's a fear narrative that's spread, especially among the black community, where, as I mentioned just before I went to break, that, we're just being perpetually and, consistently hunted down by white people. And it's just, we're just all oppressed all the time. And you should just wake up mad because you're in an oppressed country and you just oppressed all the time, victim and all that. And like I said, it's a narrative where they're instilling in black people that white people just wake up every morning, just can't just wake up with hate and wanting to just, especially if they're in law enforcement, if they're cops, they just can't wait to kill a black guy, a black person. That's what they want to do. And, unless they've, which I've seen already where, got plenty of white people out here just out there putting themselves in chains and saying, expressing their white guilt, and they've groveled and everything. And so enough to be considered an ally. So you have those white people. And so those, they leave them alone because they, those white people, after they've been, groveling to them, now those black people feel a little bit, put them on a pedestal in a way. But, anyway, it just feel like white cops or any white person, that's just the objective in life. And all it does is just stir up anger, just stir up this resentment, and just keep festering and festering until something like the death of George Floyd happens, or if it's Michael Brown or Trayvon Martin. You just keep, and whoever the next one's going to be, because it's going to happen again. And so it builds up the anger. Then all of a sudden, now we'll have a protest, right? We'll have the peaceful protest. With Michael Brown, there were peaceful protests there. There's always been peaceful protests going on. But yet then there's rioting and looting going on at the same time. And that is a product of all that anger that they've been whipping up in black people's heads about everything that's going on. That they feel like, I just got to do something. I got to burn down a building or steal some Jordans or something or whatever. And it just continues this vicious cycle. And what happens is that the peaceful protest that goes on gets drowned out. So regardless of how I feel about how anyone feels about the protest itself and what they're saying, all that gets drowned out because you have a building burning over here. I mean, unless MSNBC is reporting that they don't see the burning building. It could be right behind them. Man, no, and don't bother. Don't look at that. It's just like that Naked Gun, I think, that I posted. Where like, there's nothing to see here, but yeah. And so, and the thing about it, like I mentioned earlier, where you have people, a lot of people on social media and just wanting to make these rioters and looters as sympathetic figures because I don't know, like they just want them. They don't want to fully condemn what they're doing. And that's another thing I can't get with either. So I'm like, if you can't just condemn what they're doing, they're making your peaceful protests, they're just drowning it out. And I don't know why you can't just say, y'all need to stop. and don't get me wrong, I've seen a number of videos where people were standing in front of businesses where they were stopping people from going in and all that. But that is not accepted universally, really. There are some people that want to burn down, they want to vandalize and think they should. And me personally, I think all the people who are rioting, looting, vandalizing, all them, I hope they all get arrested. They all get the fullest extent of the law. I hope they're sitting right there in the jail cell, especially the ones in Minneapolis. I hope they're sitting right there with the other officers because they all wrong. So, I mean, just utter nonsense what's going on, especially when it comes to that. But now, one thing, if you do try to criticize, like what I'm doing right now, if you're saying anything about wanting to condemn the rioters and looters, then you have these people that come around and say, well, what else are we supposed to do? Because the peaceful protest didn't work. We were kneeling and that was criticized and that was wrong or something like that. Well, for one, just because you protest doesn't mean everyone is just supposed to instantly like you. I mean, as someone that participated in those Tea Party protests, trust me, not everybody liked us. I mean, there's plenty of people. Matter of fact, the same people who are putting up a fuss about kneeling, or the people who are kneeling, were probably the same people were calling Tea Party protests racist and having a problem with our protests. So yeah. And I mean, as far as I'm just trying to think because with the protests, just because someone was kneeling, and also I guess to mention about the kneeling in particular, because we're talking about kneeling to the national anthem, and also with Drew Brees earlier and all that. That again is also similar to what's going on with the riot, and not to the full extent of it, really, but just like where you have someone protesting, but the means of how they protesting is drowning out what they're really trying to talk about. And so, like, just like with kneeling during the national anthem, like that was just that's the most disrespectful way to try to bring light to whatever your issue is. I don't care what you're talking about. No, as far as if you're doing that, like whatever your issue is what to do it that way. It's whatever. But like I said, you have the right to do whatever. That's your right to peacefully protest. But we also have the right to criticize and say that's just disrespectful. And so when those people that I hear, like I heard a couple of times where people were just saying like, well, peaceful protest didn't, that didn't work because people were criticizing. Like, why just because people criticize don't mean it didn't work. Again, kind of going back in what I was saying earlier, it has been working. You have people in Congress, you have allies, you have the entertainment media, you have all these celebrities that are more than willing to help you and do everything you want, really. And so, yeah, it's been working. Like, you have plenty of influence out there. And so, now, I would just to end this right now. I was trying to get to the end of this, and get to our interview with Holly. It just. I would say this, and I know this is going to be not well received from especially people who are protesting and with Black Lives Matter and whatnot. But whatever, this is my podcast. But I would say to to the people who are saying, well, if rioting and looting, or if this protest, if you really feel like nothing is really working and that it's not really, we're not progressing, or in your sense, or we're not doing enough, or America's still this oppressive nation, or or whatever you feel. What I would say is that, how about, what I think you should do is actually understand that all that you're supposedly upset about is not based on reality. You're supporting a lie that the facts don't add up. They don't back up what you're talking about. All that I can understand. You could be all emotionally upset about this case, that case, and whatever case that even comes in the future. Because you'd be foolish to think that it's not going to happen again. But all of this is minuscule. It is a very small percentage of how much is going on out there. The facts that, for when you're talking about a black person killed by a white cop, or just black on white crime, just put it that way, all of that is minute as far as if you look at the data compared to whether it's black on black crime, white on white crime, black on white crime, white on black. The data doesn't back up the outrage. And actually, that's the reason why I call this episode Selective Outrage. Because every death is tragic. Let me just make sure I say that. But for you to be out there, especially if you're out there protesting and saying stuff like this is an epidemic where black men are, black people are being killed every single day, and it's systemic racism. It is rampant. That is not true. And you can keep saying it. And look, they have been saying it, and it works. I'm not going to act like it's not going to work, like it's not working. It works. You can keep saying that because plenty of people will back up, because plenty of white people will back you up in a sense because they're scared. They just don't want to be looked at as a racist, because especially if you're white, if you came out and said that the data doesn't back up all the outrage that's going on, then they just said, well, you're just racist. And then they back down. and so it works. I'm not going to act like it doesn't work. But I'm just going to say right now, look, we're not being hunted down. It's just not true. Do you have instances where it happened, where you have something like what happened to George Floyd happened? Yeah. But is that the exception? That's the exception. I'm about to say, because I was about to flip it around. But I said, yeah, that's the exception, not the rule. But that's not how that's not how it's being told, right? So anyway, I will also say this. I feel like we the people, just to bring it back to the Constitution in a way, we as a people, as well as the institutions as well, but I think we all should just understand our role in everything in this. So first you have the law, law enforcement, the police and all that. Then you have law interpreters. Those are the judges. Those are the ones that are supposed to interpret the law and then, hand down the judgment. Okay. Then you have the lawmakers. And that's where we come in, because we choose who represent us to make the laws. So if you don't like the laws, then you need to change your representatives. You need to get involved. And I think that's where the rub is. I think people don't Or I would just say people don't want to do the work, because the work to actually make real change and changing the laws, that is not quick. It's something you have to get involved with. It takes years to get together, and also to get the representatives that you want and all of that. I mean, look, there are that, especially on the liberal, the Democrat side, there are people who are doing the work, but there are a lot of people that are not. And even on, as far as, on the conservative side, we see where people, it's like pulling teeth trying to get people to get involved. And, but regardless, conservative or liberal, I think we also just need to understand that if you want that, then you need to get involved. And look, if you're one of those people from Black Lives Matter, want to implement all these, socialist, Marxist policies. Okay, if you get involved, yeah, I'm going to be against you. I'm going to say that, but at least you're doing what what we're taking part in is how it's supposed to be done, as opposed to going out there screaming and yelling and rioting and looting and whatnot.
Commentary as subtle as a sledgehammer. This is Trend Chat.
Hey guys, this is John Miller with Blaze TV. You are listening to Trend Chat with Brian Bledsoe.
Hello to fans of Trend Chat and Brian Bledsoe. The Founding Project, an education nonprofit dedicated to civics, invites you to visit our brand new website. Visit us at thefoundingproject.com. Be a part of the civics movement with The Founding Project. The Founding Project is a 501c3 education nonprofit. Please join us today.
This is Sarah Gonzalez, and you are listening to Trend Chat.
Hello, this is Trend Chat, and this is a long time coming because we actually did something with our guests a couple of months ago, if not a year ago, on Facebook. On Facebook and Instagram, and I've always wanted to have her on Trend Chat, but I knew that the audio capabilities didn't match up to what I wanted to have her on, and so we finally got enough. We got it to where
we did.
Where I want to have her on now, so we can finally have this interview and talk and everything. So who I'm talking about definitely Holly. So
yes.
Like I said, a couple of was it a year ago? I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago at least.
A couple of months ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we did a couple of live on streams on there, and that was fun, and that was great, and so now with everything that's been going on, especially with the riots and looting, along with the peaceful protests that are going on as well with the death of George Floyd, wanted to bring her on to talk about definitely Holly, but also given that she's up in the St. Louis area, and recent news about the death of David Dorn, and also because of the similarities of what happened in Ferguson. So I wanted to talk all about that. And so, Holly, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm so glad that we're catching up again. I know we're both so busy with our different schedules, and it has been a few months since we last did Facebook Live. Yeah,
and definitely look forward to doing that again. So
yes, for sure.
First, let me ask. So, as the creator of Definitely Holly, what was the inspiration?
Basically, it came about, I'd say, 2018, and I knew that, ended 2017 actually. I knew that I wanted to make a name for myself, and I wanted to take all my passions and kind of put them all together. And so basically, I'm a conservative millennial. I fight for conservative rights. I'm a Christian above all. God is my rock. God is my first priority. So conservative Christian who is involved in the pro-life movement. I stand up for the pro-life movement, anti-abortion, and also for gun rights. I got involved with guns when I was 21 years old. So I did not necessarily grow up with guns. I was kind of scared of them. Even though my family is all avid hunters, I was just scared of them, didn't want anything to do with them. I got involved in the gun movement, and my mom got me involved too as well. Started learning, and now I'm a gun rights advocate, and that goes along with definitely Holly as well. And kind of taking all these things together and grouping them together, just the way I live my life is you always want to step out of comfort zones. You're never going to grow unless you step out of those comfort zones and you keep moving forward with an unwavering journey. You have to keep moving forward. And when you take those chances and you take those opportunities, you create opportunities, you'll never know where your life will take you. You can only shoot for the stars and above.
Yeah, and so with definitely Holly, it's as far as I guess empowering women or just anyone as far as being involved in the Second Amendment in particular. Like you said, you mentioned other issues as well, but I know from seeing you on social media, and I know that you have a lot of classes or at least training when it comes to firearms.
Yes.
And, I guess, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I take classes at Tactical Response in Camden, Tennessee. I also take classes, I took classes with NOC firearms training out in St. Louis, Kevin Dixie. I've taken classes, numerous classes now with Ultimate Defense out in St. Peters, Missouri, and I actually do their social media for them. That's my other side of my Definitely Holly business. I help other business owners take their social media and excel with their social media as well, kind of like what I did for myself. So kind of brand themselves and get their name out there. And so, yeah, Ultimate Defense, I do a lot of stuff with them right now. It's a lot of different firearms training. And I get more people involved because I post these videos of these people that were just like in my place when I was 21 years old. They were scared to hold a gun. And they're all from all different walks of life and all different ages, and it's really neat getting people into the gun community and arming themselves and being prepared.
Yes, most definitely, especially right now with everything that's been going on in the past week or so, with, like I said, with
absolutely
with all the unrest that's been going on across the country. You have people that definitely need to be prepared and also just be aware as far as what's going on around you, because you never know what you might encounter some of these situations. And
exactly.
So also, in speaking of that, like I mentioned in the beginning, is that with all these riots that's been going on, and with all the violence that has been going on,
right?
And I know this is pretty much similar to what happened in your area up in in Ferguson. Yeah. So, I mean, what are the for you when you seeing what's going on now? What similarities are you seeing from that to Ferguson?
Oh gosh. Well, I just have to say overall the violence. We had last night, thankfully, thank God, we had out by me in O'Fallon, Missouri, we had protesters get together and walk through O'Fallon in O'Fallon, Missouri, and that was all peaceful, good for them, and they were peacefully protesting, which they have every right to do. We have that right to do so. And then there were some in St. Charles tonight, but they weren't necessarily violent, and I still have to check in because I'm going to see where things are right now with them. But when they first started this afternoon, nothing was violent, but they were blocking the highways and they were blocking cars. And, some of the cars were honking like in agreement with them, but then other cars were like, hey, I'm getting pissed off. I have to get to work. Like, we have jobs.
Get out the way.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of what was going on there. But a few nights ago in St. Louis, and a good 2 nights in a row, it was 2-3 nights, it got really, really violent. And that's the part where we were getting terrified because it was almost like Ferguson happening all over again. And that's where you had the retired St. Louis police captain, David Dorn, who spent 38 years in his service serving the St. Louis community. And you have him on the ground getting videotaped of him dying, where the rioters were mocking him, dying, just leaving him there, and he was there by himself when he died. And it's a shame because he's helped out the St. Louis community. He was outside a pawn shop there in downtown St. Louis, and he volunteered. He was good friends with the owner, and he volunteered to stand guard because he wanted to help small business owners. And that's how he gets treated. And it's then the three other officers that were out there too, three other police officers, they got shot, and they're supposedly okay. But, you know, David's life was important too, just like George's life was.
Yeah, and you know, it's unfortunate with that happening, and with David Dorn dying. You don't really hear much about what happened to him.
Right. Yeah, the riots that have been happening in St. Louis, this has nothing to do with George. These are Antifa people. These are rioters coming in from who knows where, some maybe even in St. Louis. And they're all gathering, and they're all using this they're taking this as an opportunity to destroy and loot and cause destruction and kill innocent people. And how is that the very people that sit there, which we're all in agreement with, and say that, look, this happened to George, and this is wrong. Okay. And they're the people that are saying, oh, you know, they're also saying about the police and police brutality and violence. Well, these are the people that are out in the street. They're hypocrites. They're out in the street destroying and killing people, yelling about police brutality and violence. And they're burning down all businesses, and they're looting businesses. They're vandalizing monuments in Washington, D.C. And they're the ones that are talking about violence. And it's very hypocritical.
You know, there's been countless, instances of vandalism across the country. But I saw one piece that was just really sad, at least from what I've seen so far. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was so in DC, they have a statue for victims of communism. And that particular statue was vandalized, and it that right there is just really hits a little different to me.
It does.
Of all things that you want, that you're going to vandalize people, you know, something that memorialize the victims of communism, which is as much as it kind of frustrates me to see that. I'm not really surprised by it, because given the ideology of the people who are rioting, I will probably say that they're pretty much are communists, so they probably see that statue they probably see that statue as an affront to communism, because the evil capitalists are making communism look bad with that statue. So.
Absolutely. Yep.
But you and talking about David Dorn and you know what he was doing for the city of St. Louis, and I know for you that that's something, as far as caring for fallen police officers, is something that you've been doing. So tell us some more about that.
Yeah, see, this really hits me hard because, it makes me mad because just because you have certain officers that choose to that allow evil in their hearts and choose to act in a wrongful manner, which should be convicted and dealt with, you can't group all officers like that together. Just like you can't group any profession like that. It just doesn't even make any sense. And so I actually am a caregiver that's on the side. I do this 3 to 4 nights a week, and I help care for a good friend of mine, Matt Crosby, and he's a fallen police officer. He's okay, but he is paralyzed because he got shot back, I want to say it's 2010. It's been quite a few years, but he was responding to a scene out in Rock Hill, St. Louis, simply responding to a scene, and he got shot. So it really hits it hits home with me because he's such a good friend of mine, and he just, he's tries to still give back to the community of St. Louis and surrounding areas, and he's just such a good person. And to see him, a 40-year-old that, is given his life, putting his life on the line every single day, and he has 2 kids, and he was married at the time, and people like that put their lives on the line every single day, and you never know. And it's a shame because now his whole life is totally different. So.
Well, I would say, I commend you for doing that, and that is it's great that you're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And also, well, from the things that you mentioned that you've taken part of, it seems like, as you mentioned, you are very busy. And so also, I guess another thing as well, because I know I saw about that you were, training, still are training for bodybuilding and all that. And so how's that going?
It's going good. I obviously had to take a break from it because training and my diet got really intense, but then my show got canceled in April because of the coronavirus. And so.
And I was going too.
I know. And I was waiting until the last minute because they were so unsure if they're going to have it or not. They were trying to have it, and then they're just like, we can't. So now I'm shooting for, I had a brief little surgery, so I'm still kind of recovering, but I'm pretty much recovered for the most part. And so I'm shooting for a competition in St. Louis in October. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll definitely keep you posted on that.
Yeah, definitely, Holly. So, and speaking of that, so what's next for as far as what you're doing, and whether it's a website or all that, what you got going on?
So with me, I kind of ventured off and I started Definitely Holly social media consulting. So I took myself and how I branded myself as Definitely Holly and how I reached followers all over the United States with just with reaching out and branding myself and doing it myself. And so I take that and I show other businesses. And so now I have a few clients and I'm still building my own social media consulting business, and I'm helping them take their business social media pages and brand themselves.
Okay.
So that's what I've been doing. And other than that, I'm still keeping up with my own personal brand and staying informed and still speaking out.
And that's definitely something we need to do. I'm catching myself saying definitely because there are times like, because it kind of now it's become like it's like a filler word that's coming out. So, but if people want to know more about Definitely Holly and want to connect with you on social media, where would they go?
Yeah, so check me out, Definitely Holly, exactly how it sounds, and HOLLY on Facebook and Instagram. I'm still building my YouTube page as well, so there's that as well. I also do kind of gotten out of it. Can't talk. I've got out of it for a little bit, just because of all the riots and everything that was going on. I've really been focused on that and speaking out against that. But as far as going back to AOC, I had tons of videos, which I need to get back to, just doing impersonations of her. So that was a lot of fun too, and people loved that. I would do the whole glasses and the whole look, and
well, she gives you plenty of content, so.
Oh yeah. And then when I get done, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gave myself a headache.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, trying to channel in all of that, trying to be nice here but trying to channel all that falsehoods that's going to be coming out of her mouth.
Right.
It could be draining. So, but you know what? I actually have one other thing I want to ask, because especially in light with everything that's going on now. Yep. And if someone that have been seeing all of this and now they're like, okay, I feel like I need to either purchase a firearm or just need to at least get educated on it, and so I can be more prepared. What advice would you give people that want it, that, as you know, after seeing all this, that are, you know, thinking about, okay, maybe I need to actually start pursuing this? What advice you would give to those people?
Right. So I would say, you know, you should have gotten the firearm a long time ago, but especially now with everything that's going on, oh my gosh, like please, 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 law-abiding citizens, go out there and purchase a firearm, and don't just purchase one, take classes and know gun responsibility, know how to use the gun properly, and be well prepared, because again, you never know. Just because you live in O'Fallon, Missouri, where I live, doesn't mean that something bad's not going to happen. Evil is everywhere, as we see all over the United States, and you never know. So you always have to be prepared and protect yourself and your loved ones.
Yeah, and I guess if if you're in the St. Louis area, maybe I don't know if you hold any classes. Do you have like a set time and all that, or where? But if you're in the St. Louis area, or just wherever you're listening, just definitely try to, if you're interested now, to look into it, because I mean, there's a lot of options out there.
There are, and I mean, there's gun classes all over. I'm just speaking about the one that I help out, the firing range out in St. Peters, Missouri. But look them up, Ultimate Defense Firing Range out in St. Peters, Missouri. The memberships, classes, get involved and go up there and shoot. I mean, just anywhere. I mean, please, I'm just urging everyone just to really take responsibility for their own safety, because things are only getting worse. And when I saw, going back to St. Louis and all the footage on TV, obviously I didn't go down there because it's not safe, but just looking at all the footage on TV, it took me back to Ferguson, but it also gave me a much worse picture than that. It was something like, just like almost like getting to the point of a war zone, almost like when I saw Minneapolis, that was a war zone. And that was clear to me. I mean, I would say domestic terrorism. That's where you're getting into, people need to be charged with what they do, because that's scary.
Definitely, I will say that, because I mean, anyone that is arrested should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. And I've said it myself. Those, the people who are arrested for any rioting and looting should be right there in prison, right there with those police officers.
They should.
George Floyd.
They should. And that, what'd you say?
Oh, no, go ahead.
That Derek, I mean, it just came out. I don't know if you saw, but he was initially charged with third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. But he has a new second-degree murder charge. Yeah. So that's where it is right now. And the other three officers who just kind of stood there, they're also facing charges as well. So I hope that, George and his family do get justice. And I also hope that these rioters, that they are punished and this stops, because we really need to put a stop to not only all this violence, but just everything, because our economy is already tanked because of the coronavirus, and Trump is trying to get our economy back on track. And now you have business owners who are hit by COVID, and now they can't even get back on their feet, because now their business is destroyed by rioters. So.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 is doing a number on us right now. So, but Holly, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yep, and thanks to Holly for joining us. And I know by saying what I said at the end about, okay, people being upset about the wrong things, or that it not based on facts, doesn't make me black. I mean, obviously Joe Biden said that, so it's whatever. But I said it's probably be the last time I talk about it, but that's probably not the case, because I have a conversation with a friend of mine on the next episode. So I guess we'll be talking about this at least a little bit more. And until then, we'll chat with you later.